This is Mario. Yes, beloved, it's my voice. It's not my one and only sister. And I am once again trying my best to sit in and keep the education bandwagon moving. I don't pretend to have the expertise that my one and only sister has. She's a career educator. So I am not going to embarrass myself trying to step into her shoe. I will just try my best to hold on because, well, this would be the third Wednesday, and we have one more to go and find out because I thought it was just supposed to be two, and she would be back today, but no, we got two more to go. This one and next week Wednesday. So that would give me four straight Wednesday afternoons trying my best. And beloved, what I have been trying to do is what I consider a great lapse, missing link, if you will, in this whole business of mental emancipation. Because that's how I see education for people like us. We've got a lot of ground to make up for. And so I am trying my best to inform, to enlighten, basically to try to explain what is meant by African humanities. Humanities as a word is misunderstood and probably deliberately so. Them and those who run things would much rather we don't have a good grasp, a good understanding of what is meant by humanities. Well, over the past two Wednesdays, we were trying to well, break down a big, confusing subject matter into smaller bites that hopefully would be more understandable to us all, but I don't know. I, I'm not the best at explaining things sometimes. So I will persist and saying to you that knowledge comes in two kinds. Yes, there are two kinds of knowledge. I hope we established that already, but let's be sure. Beloved, there is what we know as universal knowledge. universal because anywhere you go, it is precisely the same. And we refer to it as a science when no matter how you look at it, how you dissect it, you're always going to get the same result. That makes it a science. I've been saying the science of mathematics is probably one of the better understood sciences. And I've been saying that we all know that 1 plus 1 equals 2. And that in itself makes it a science because it doesn't matter where you are or for that matter who you are. 1 plus 1 is still going to be equal to 2. And that is the one kind of knowledge, the universal, the scientific. The other kind is the local. As opposed to universal, it is local, meaning that it depends on the location and the people as to how that knowledge is perceived. And more often than not, beloved, it is what we consider to be a humanity. That is knowledge that is not accepted, used, promoted the same way wherever you go and whoever you might encounter. That's what makes it local as opposed to universal. And it's all about how you analyze it. But beloved, the fact of the matter is that there are some conditions that help us to get a better grasp of what we're talking about. So that if you are located in a colder part of the world, your humanities would reflect that circumstance that you live in cold weather. And that is how we reference it as being local rather than universal. Because just as you might have one set of humanities because you live in a cold place, the other person have a very different set of humanities because, well, they live in a warm place. And beloved, this is something that has given us a better understanding of who we are and how we came to be who we are. Like, for instance, beloved, if you live in a colder place, the vegetation might not be as plentiful. You have less vegetation the colder the weather that your location happens to be. Conversely, if you're in a warm place, there's more vegetation so that you could easily conclude that the warmer the place is, the more vegetation you're likely to find. Your example, like if you were at the North Pole, you will find very little vegetation, a lot of snow and ice you run into. But if you are located anywhere around the equator, well, you might even find yourself in the Amazon, where the vegetation is so thick you refer to it as a jungle and expect all kinds of exotic life, whether it's with animal or plant. There's so much more life because of the warm weather. Well, beloved, this is how we refer to humanities. The way you live in a cold place are the humanities that belong to you and yours. Well, on the other hand, if you find yourself in a warm place, well, beloved, your humanities were very likely conditioned by that weather. The simplest example we will take is water. Beloved, if you had a container full of water and that container is taken to the North Pole, all of a sudden you no longer have a container full of water, you got a container of ice. Whereas if you have the water in a warm place with still water, and as we all know, if you could attach some heat to that water, you could actually boil it and turn the water into steam, you know, so that the water could actually change into ice or into steam, depending on the condition of the environment that the water is in. And this is again my simple attempt to explain what we mean by humanities, so that you can understand that it depends on where the people are as to what humanities those people will have. The environmental condition will be one of the principal reasons that your humanities turn out to be what they are. Beloved, in the early days, the earliest times, you will find that if you lived in a cold area, for one thing, your skin color is going to be more on the pale side. Not dark, but pale. And that if you take a closer look at these people in these earlier times, I'm talking about thousands of years ago, you'll find that they were more nomadic if they lived in a cold region, a cold area, where the vegetation was limited. And so that these people would just naturally become more nomadic, because their source of food would be animals. And the animals would be just naturally trying to seek out whatever vegetation they could wherever they find them. And this is what made the people nomadic, because they are moving to follow the animals that they eat to survive. And beloved, this was pale skinned, nomadic people who lived in the northern part of the planet, where the weather is cooler. And the difference between that and people who live closer to the equator, in warmer areas where the environment is more likely to be, well, filled with life, plant life, animal life. Like I said earlier, you might refer to it as a jungle, the Amazon maybe. But the big difference is that whereas Those living in the northern and cold areas should be pale skin. Those living in the darker areas, I'm saying the warmer areas is what I want to say, would be darker in terms of the skin color, the complexion. And so right there, you have a major distinction that is brought on by the environment. The environment is cold, the people end up being pale skin and nomadic, where in a warmer area, closer to the equator, you find that the people are dark skin, not light skin, dark skin. And they are not nomadic, they are more sedentary because they don't have to be following hordes of animals that they need for their food because the animals and plants all around. They, they choose where they want to settle and be sedentary. And that is a major, I couldn't find a more distinctive check between peoples than the one based on the environment. Cold weather versus warm weather. And cold weather people, beloved, for the most part, don't end up being farmers because where are they going to farm? If ice and snow is your surroundings, you wouldn't expect to be running into any farmers in that kind of environment. This is where the nomadic way of life comes into play. Well, beloved, another one of the distinctions that you're going to find that you could trace right back to the environment, climate, is when somebody dies. And we're not talking about how they die, just somebody dies. Now, their family would want to remember them. But beloved, if you're a nomadic people, tracing animals for your survival, you're not likely to bury your dead and just keep on with your nomadic life following the animals that you need to survive. No, you wouldn't do that. You are more likely to find a way how you could keep your loved one with you And that, beloved, is what we today call cremation. You would burn the dead, reduce the dead to ashes, ashes that you can then carry with you so that whatever container you might use for the ashes that cremation made of your loved one would, beloved, that's your cemetery. It's your traveling cemetery. Whatever the container is, that you got the ashes of your loved one that you cremated. And again, that is something that you could trace right back to the environment, the climate, the weather. Because when you go the other side, you're closer to the equator, and you find that you lost a loved one. Beloved, the distinction is made very plainly so that we could understand the difference between humanities in the north, humanities in the south. Because, yes, when loved one dies, you bury them. And you being a sedentary person, communal lifestyle, might be farmers, you will always have this cemetery, graveyard, if you will, where you could pay homage to your loved one that you lost. And the last thing you would want to do is to cremate them, to burn them. No, cremation would not be part of the humanities. If you are from the south, you think in terms of burial, you bury your dead. If you're from the north and you're nomadic, you can't think in terms of burying the dead and moving on. No, you cremate them, you burn them, and you take the ashes and you move on with them. And that, again, is just the difference in humanities that you can trace just back to the environment, the weather, whether you're living in a cold climate or a warm climate. Beloved, believe you me, you have different humanities. And this is how we are trying our best to understand what is meant by African humanities and how we lost our humanities in shattered environment. And we don't even realize it as we try our best to claim the humanities of our conquerors and enslavers and have no understanding that we had African humanities of our own. Oh, straight, beloved, we'll talk some more about African humanities. Stick and stay. We'll be right back. We're back. Beloved, education is what we are trying to stick with because it's Wednesday. And Wednesday afternoon from 12:30 to 4:30, it's my one and only sister time for her program. And she is a career educator and a member of the board of education. So when, as I'm doing today, I find myself sitting in for her, I try my best to stay with education and not to stray too far from well, my expertise, which is basically my people, whether you call us Crucians, Virgin Islanders, Caribbean people, or just plain descendants of Africa. But I think that we can understand that, beloved, we are from the South. We're from one country. We don't come from the North. We don't come from cold weather. And so when we try to understand our humanities, we've got to understand it in terms of where we came from, who we be, culture. Good afternoon. Hello.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Moore.
And a good afternoon and a big welcome to you.
All right. Every premise, every thesis, every statement you make, I question.
That's quite all right.
Like respectfully, as the elder and as a human being.
Again, and I accept it. And as a human being with active cognitive skills like you have, I would be disappointed if
Okay.
you did if you didn't have reason to push back, to question, and to be
Now
analytical
that,
on
now
your
that we
own
have set,
terms.
now that we have set the table, now let's proceed now. Okay. You're making a distinction in terms of like climate to develop. You call it humanities, I would call it culture, and probably the other part of it in the
But
social.
again, please don't let me interrupt. But again, so we don't get
Something
too confused.
definitely.
Well, so we don't get too confused. It's not that I'm using the word humanities. That's what humanities mean. You know, so I don't want to confuse the beloved audience that I'm just using that word and that I could, like, you just choose to use another word. No, that is what humanities are. Just like science is science, humanity is humanity. And I mean, it's not
Let me,
Mario that said that.
let me just something here. Have you ever heard about behavioral science?
I have heard of behavioral sciences, yes.
So, what do you think of it? I mean, is that
Again,
overlap?
it's like social science, political science. It's rhetorical because a science, has to be precisely the same, wherever you find it, whoever it is applied to.
And that
Science is science.
and that's what I think the behavioral science that involves anthropology, sociology, psychology, probably philosophy, etc., religion and language, right?
Uh,
Those like a pattern
Mm,
within behavior as to give it a particular character, whether it's a culture or whether it's distinct from culture. You're looking for a pattern of human behavior, human thought and expression. And that
mhm.
will determine whether it's a culture. This culture is different from that culture. So it behaves like the hard and the physical science in that way because you're looking for patterns and repeated patterns in human behavior and in thought patterns. That's
Right.
what the behavior science is basically. That's what they use the term science because that human activity repeats itself from generation to generation. So therefore, it establishes itself as a science, a behavioral science. Yes, we may have the physical science. Yes, they were based on phenomenon, natural phenomenon. Yes, but there's human behavior characteristic of that physical science. But me, what I get lost in the semantics of it, I want to get into you mentioned that in terms of burial, you say because of nomadic, therefore they won't have the rituals and the rites of burial. But I could show you in temperate climates, you ever have a Zoroastrian or the Indian religion, their
Zoroastrian, yes.
humanity in terms of their religion does not allow them to bury because they view the body as basically as an illusion. So therefore, there's no reason to preserve it, so they will burn
Yes.
it.
And I interrupt you with all due respect to say to you, yes. But if you continue to trace that to its root, you will find you will find that the science is, as I have been trying to define it, something that is repeated precisely the same way wherever you find it at whatever time you find it. And what you're doing is saying what I have had many books, that I've read that says that, which is really to uh, to condition science, to put a condition on it. And I said, but no, that's the very essence of a science, that it cannot be conditioned. It cannot be modified. It is precisely the same exact thing every time. That's what is a science. Anything
Well,
else,
well, those experts that created the behavior science, they had a ground for doing that. They see that culture, human events, even though you may classify it as humanities or culture, it behaves
uh,
as a science, as a natural phenomenon in terms of because the object of science is you're examining, you're observing nature, and you're looking to see, I guess, the nature, the principle within that phenomenon, and
yeah.
then you try to read
But
it.
you yielding to my explanation, which is that the classical use of the term science, you know,
But
is
but
that it's something that does not deviate, it
I
does
am
not
also
change.
applying it to the behavior, to the cultural aspect of it, like
Well,
anthropology.
but that's just it. If the cultural aspect, then we're talking about humanity.
No, they only hang up
Culture.
on human. If I call culture and you call humanity, it's just a one and a half
No,
and one
but
and
I
a
say,
half.
but that's where we're gonna have the big argument because you are touching it to me, and I don't want to confuse my beloved audience. It's not me making use of the word humanity. That's what it means.
So what
That's
is
what
it?
that's
I
what a
don't want to
humanity
come.
is.
I don't want to come tricky. So what is the difference between culture and humanity? If they don't
There
know
is
that,
no difference. The
but
culture is a humanity. It is
exactly.
something that, well, that's just it comes from human beings, people, as opposed to, science. which is a natural part of our universe.
You mentioned, okay, with the idea for the water, you take water
Yeah,
in the three states. You carry it, you put it in the south, it will be like liquid. You carry it now, it becomes solid.
right.
But human being is not human being, unlike other animals, we could adapt, we create culture to fit our environment.
But that's the well, there you go. That's the humanity, and I'm saying yes, we are the same page right there.
So therefore, there's no solid distinction to say a man from the south will be confined to this particular set of behavior. If human necessity drives him to the north because of following nomadic animals, animals that migratory animals, and I disagree with you in terms of nomadic being exclusively to the north.
Well, I'm again. I was just trying to, use that as an example to go back to the origins. We're a time where you were talking about the hunters and gatherers and so forth. That in the north, you know, there would be no sedentary life. It would be a nomadic life, chasing the animals that you need for survival.
But in the south, are you familiar with the Maasai? There was two brands. You had a pastoral match would be with like cattle.
Yes,
So
but
they were
look at the initial ones. The initial thing point is that you are a sedentary human being. You don't have to be nomadic. You don't have to.
but Mr. Mohammed, with all due respect, I believe nomadic condition precedes the sedentary. The sedentary come when man start to evaluate the
No,
season
no,
and
no,
stuff.
no, 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 because
But I know,
because but all scientists know the same Mario, and I think you'll have to agree with it. They all tell you that humanity, human beings, came out of the south, not the north.
but it wasn't sedentary. There was nomadic.
And I'm saying to you, if you found a nomadic peoples because they chose to, they didn't have to be nomadic. This is the difference in north. You have
No,
to.
with respect to the reason why, because man did not know the season that would require him to plant. So he would follow the animals and he would follow the season when
No, no, no. There would be. You listen.
But
There
I
wouldn't
don't have
be.
to listen about it from Ghana. I don't want to be saying about
All right. Well, if
but
believe you me, if I had a caller, I would have said that. I think, but again, it's your choice, And I just want to, as you leave us, to please understand that it's not Mario making use of this terminology. The word science has its own definition. The word humanity and humanities, plural, have its own definition. It's not
I don't
Mario.
know. I forget the dictionary definition, but they overlap. That's why the term behavioral science came into play because you cannot restrict it to like this category and say like this is strictly science and this is strictly you because language could be explained scientifically. There are certain rules of grammar and syntax that you have to follow, and it will take on the nuances of a science. And you could learn to cook, and you follow certain rules and formulas, it will behave like a science. Like the seeds, like for instance, the season of thing dealing with like I mentioned calendar, right?
Yes.
You but Mr. Moran, I will hang up and you somebody and get in there and then
All right. And
come back.
I always appreciate you, and I respect, your cognitive skills. Your cognitive skills deserve respect, and I respect them to you, and I always look forward to discussing, whatever the issue might be.
Mr. Moran, as an elder, I, as a human being who is intellectual powers that I can't, you know, read like 600 page books in like probably two to our week. And that discipline, that you could be the forcing the critic, the literary critic. That's the type of thing that you do, and that's a feat, an intellectual feat, and I commend you for that.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you. Until the next time. Yes, beloved, and as we're discussing here, it is important that we establish uh, that there are two kinds of knowledge. This is the premise we started with, and we're not deviating from that. This is what the education is all about. That we educate ourselves to that reality, that knowledge is of two kinds. One kind, science. The other kind, humanity. And basically, that is what I am trying my best to explain here as I sit in for my one and only sister who is, well, a career educator, okay? A career educator. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Hello? Well, but at any rate, beloved, keep thinking we got a call. Let's see there. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mario. How are you?
Thank God, alive and well, and you know, trying our best here to explain, you know, a very well, a very elusive kind of discussion that many of us have a different point of view on this matter of what I call knowledge. Knowledge
Well,
coming in two
Mario,
kinds.
every form of life has to come from the south, Mario. You can't come from the north because it's too cold. You have to come from a heat climate. You know?
Well,
Very important.
I think that the caller just before you, you know, he was kind of questioning whether that have to be so. And I said, well, I think you know very well that, you know, human beings, humanity came out of the South.
Right.
But he is trying his best to explain to me that there can be different degrees of science. Science is not a whole unto itself. And I'm trying to say, no. You know, if you are going to condition science, put anything to it, take anything away from it, you immediately leave in science and you're going into humanity.
Well, me as a man, human nature, my rooster won't crow if it wasn't for the heat, Mario.
Thank you.
Rooster don't crow. My rooster don't crow in the cold.
Well, again,
I think they go from guy called lizard to when I come to the south to the islands, it's called like iguana.
yes. Well,
That's science, Mario. You have
yes.
to really look at it a different way, you know.
Well, you and I could see that, but that's the point. It's not so easy, you know, to explain that to somebody else who, for whatever reason, they want to see it differently.
But when you're dealing with, man, Mario, there's a lot into this thing, but I'll start with this. I'll go to the definition, Mario. You have the definitions, they start into school, and then you have a legal definition. Those two definitions are two different theory.
Mhm.
That's one way you could look at it. What they're taught, the definitions being taught to the school of the young, they don't get that other league of definition until you go to a law school or they're seek into the law and study law. These are two different definitions when you're dealing with humanities and life.
Right.
So that's another one. Then you're dealing with man and you're dealing with godly. Those are another two different factors, Mario, because man don't create religion and God don't have religion. It's just humanity, it's just godly, it's love, lack of understanding. If you don't know love, you can't give love. You wouldn't be here if it wasn't for love. Yeah.
Well, that's where we are, because I am trying.
It's weird that, Mario.
When I'm trying to get this understanding clear to my beloved audience, so we could move on to get to understand why it is that we can't find the African humanities. Because that's the point that I want to get to. That, hey, because we were conquered, because we were enslaved, we were dehumanized so that our humanities were totally destroyed. We became a thing, we became property, not human beings. And that is what is happening now. Many of us wanting to get our mental emancipation don't realize the difference in humanities. And so we are inadvertently copying the humanities of our conquerors and enslavers, totally missing the fact that we had our own humanities. And we have to go back to before the colonization, before the enslavement, before the conquest, to understand the African humanities. And this is where you get into then the ancient Egypt, and you find out things why it was that the pyramids, can't be duplicated. Why it is that with ancient Egyptian civilization was matriarchal, and not matriarchal meaning that women rule, but meaning that women control their birth, so that you inherit through the woman's family, not the man.
Because I was coming to that, Mario. Matriarch, patriarch, because it's based on a negative and a positive.
But you are it. So you see, this is why I was trying to work my way to get there. Hello?
Yeah, there. Yeah, so matriarch, patriarch makes a big difference when you're dealing with negative positive. That's what gives us electric, Mario. You have to have growing with the matriarch. Instead of growing, where would be more of a female.
There you go.
And the man would be more positive.
There you go.
Because, it's human nature. The woman is more warmer than the man.
There you go.
And I always need my woman at night. That's human nature. That's part of your humanity. But we won't be here today if we didn't have what you're saying, Mario, out of the civilization out of Africa.
Yes.
Where did they go? They went to Africa.
Yeah.
And who? These people.
Yeah.
Who are people? There's the history we talk about, Mario.
Yeah.
But when you're dealing with science and man, you'll always have a problem there. That's more of a negative and a positive, however you want it.
Yeah.
Which is wrong, you could choose it. What's a negative, what's a positive, and the conversation go in based on the man-made or science.
Yeah.
But man is here. Our duties as men, we're here to govern the world and make it things right. But unfortunately, you have some of them and those don't go along with these theories, and it's not taught, Mario. The civilization of Africa is not taught to our younger youth. Them humanities is not there.
Right.
So we get a different foundation. So a lot of the times we don't get checks and balance. Checks and balance brings the humanity. It's lack of understanding. And if it's not taught, we are lost, Mario. And thank God for you having the forum, because it's free have what? Lack of understanding who you are. So science is very deeply as a man. And Mario, if you fail as a man, I fail as a man. And we both fail because we fail in our community.
There you
So I
go.
got to always uplift you as a man and me as a man. So that because our children are watching and our wives are watching, the women are watching
Yeah.
what the men are doing in a patriarchal system. And
Yeah.
why not? Because maybe we could go back to a matriarch system
Yeah.
where women rule
Yeah.
and not man rule. But we cannot fail as men. We have to come together to move forward as one. You know, that is humanity. You know, one aim, one destiny, one love, one heart. You know.
Well,
But
again,
in reality, it's life, Mario. You know, you gotta have love. You have to have laughter, and you got to have life. That's humanity.
there you go. There you go. I wish I could explain it as easy as you do, sir, but basically, that's what we say. That is what we say. And I am hoping I think we get my beloved audience here to grasp the reality that, hey, all of these are problems we inherited, not willingly, but we inherited by being conquered, by being enslaved, by being colonized. That's how we inherited all of this confusion, that we have so much problems today to understand that yes, as Africans, we had our own humanity. And because we are searching for our mental emancipation, we must not make the mistake to replicate, to grab onto, to copy, to reproduce the humanity of those who conquered us, of those who enslaved us, of those who colonized us. We had our own humanity. That's the point.
Well, Mario, you have to acknowledge who you are as a human being. That there's only two DNA in the world as humans. There's either male or female DNA, and there's no other. You know, nothing else exists. And you know, once the man knows his job and his destiny and his foundation as a male, he will take part of that role as a man. And the woman will take part of her job, what she's supposed to do as a female. And it's a shame, Mary, because you see so much problem, like you're saying, within the male and the female, based on having lack of understanding, based on the foundation, but having what is called humanities. What is humanity? Like we were saying here.
Yeah.
It's who you are as a human being, acknowledging the world, acknowledging the things and your world, you as a human being, your part that you play in the world that you exist in.
That's right.
You know, and why we here, and who bring you here, who brought you here, where you come, you didn't fell off the sky.
Right.
You know, that is humanity. The lack of understanding really and truly who you are, and we need food, nourishment, and learning all the different fruits on the earth that God provides, and the medicine and so forth. You know, these things are godly. These things are who our humanity is. The studies of science, scientific, to really and truly understand what life is really all about. You know, so thank God for life, Mario. Thank God for health and strength. And if we don't have that nourishment, we won't have the humanities. If you don't have a foundation, you won't have humanity. If somebody else come and give you something else, it is not your humanity. It's lost. That word don't even exist.
Right.
You don't even know what is humanity because of trial and tribulation.
Right.
No, Mario, I've been many places around the world and back to where I'm at, right?
Yeah.
But I just thank God that I'm able to see things the way I was seeing. Well, some people don't open their eyes, Mario. Some people don't go east. Some people don't go west. Some people don't go north or south. You know? So they hinder them. So their mind, their brains, their eyes, everything that God gives them don't experience the smell, you know, the taste, the different things. They don't get to experience the world like they should as human beings. You know, even in a small place, some people don't small place. And why? Because they lost that humanity and their mind is still captured to be captured. Just not to go nowhere, not to think bigger, not to see bigger. And now they give them GPS. Humans never use a GPS. They use compass, north, south, east, west. We use what science gives us, what what human nature gives us, the stars, the moon, the sun, etc. How to plant more east when the sun rises. You can't plant where it doesn't go. You're going against the grain. Certain things when you get into agriculture. But I thank God for the humanities and the consciousness that is given brought to your show and able to express it in different ways. And we could go on, the conversation could plus Mario. And I could give you an answer for every question. Yeah.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate that.
Humanity has been love, lack of understanding. That's the reality.
Okay.
That always been love to bring you right back to where you're coming from.
We're very grateful. And we thank you for it.
Love and peace, man. Yeah.
Thank you for it. Good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon, Baba. How are you doing today?
One day at a time here, trying to be well.
I could see you trying. We all trying, eh?
That's how we could do. Try hard.
That's all we could do. I just want to chime in a little bit with you.
Please, man, please. You always do, and but more often than not, you have some brilliant piece of writing from somebody or something that you want to share with us and so forth.
I do want to share with you. Yes,
you see, well, there you go. So,
okay.
Feel welcome. Let me give you a big cruise and hug up as I welcome you.
Thank you. And here I give you one back. Okay, so when I listen to people speak about, how they traveled and not everybody can be able to travel to see other places. And I feel like we shouldn't have to travel in order to know, to me, what is right or wrong. Like you're speaking on science and the difference between science and humanity and all of that.
Yeah.
So I just want to just move on and speak about the trials and tribulation that we as a Black people has been through from the beginning when they colonized us, right? So I'm going to talk about a man named George Henry White. He was the last sitting congressman in 1901. Because remember, in the 1800s, they had Republicans in the Congress, which was a good bit of Black representatives.
When they came with Abraham Lincoln?
Yes, correct. So now, when that was going on, for some reason, I want to say the colonizer, the white man, whoever we want to call them, he saw that he had to do something to stop that. So I'm going to read this for you. So George Henry White left Congress in 1901, knowing he was the last Black congressman of his era, the last one from the Reconstruction generation. And after him, they were about to slam the door shut, and he knew it. He was the last. Southern states that already started rewriting their constitutions. They had poll taxes, literacy tests, grandfather clauses, violence, whole system designed to make sure now Black people never voted again, never held office again, and never touched power again. North Carolina was his home. They rewrote their constitution in 1899 with surgical precision to eliminate Black voters. The very electorate that sent him to Congress was being dismantled in real time. So when his term ended in 1901, it wasn't because he lacked ambition. It was because the people who elected him now was being stripped of the ballot. Right. They engineered it so he couldn't come back. This was just erasure in real time. And when he had his farewell address, he didn't cry, he didn't beg, and he didn't perform respectability. So he said this to Mr. George Henry. This is the chairman when he was getting ready to leave. This is what the chairman told him. Is perhaps the Negro's temporary farewell to the American Congress temporary. So that's like saying, like, the nerve of this man actually saying that to him. But he tells them that it is temporary. So this is what he told them. Something like this. We will rise someday and come again. He says you can burn us, suppress us, and silence us. You can intimidate us, we will rise again. Now, after he walked out, Baba, there was never, now he walked out at 1901, he was the last, Baba. There was never a black congressman in office for 72 years in the South. And that wasn't because we lost interest, it was white narcissism. So
well, they had another name for it too,
Is it white supremacy?
Jim Crow.
Am I close? Say it again.
Jim Crow.
Jim Crow, okay.
Jim
Thank
Crow.
you.
Jim Crow came along with the Ku Klux Klan and the lynching and so forth.
Yes.
That it destroyed Reconstruction, and up until really the 60s and the civil rights, this was Jim Crow was the way of life.
And that's when the civil rights kicked in now. So you can you see, like, can people just really honestly see what it is, and for us to have a change, and I'm not pushing violence or nothing, but a lot of our history, if we watch it, even from us, nothing changed based on talking. Things change with movement. And we keep talking, and we keep talking, and we keep talking, and we're not moving. So we want to continuously point our heart and soul into the electorate. I wish everybody luck, because it's not just voting is what changed a lot of things. If people, the history, voting really ain't changed anything. It's what took place in order for that to hit the legislature floor, for them to push it. They ain't just did it to just do it. Oh, we're going to just do it because, yeah, we love the black. No. Everything that has been passed, civil rights laws, any laws that they put to help us, we had to fight for them laws. We didn't sit back and just talk about going and vote. No. We had to make some kind of movement. Even if we come together, and we don't want no violence. We don't want that. The Black Panthers didn't have violence. Martin Luther King didn't have violence. Malcolm X didn't really speak about it per se, but we have to move people. We have to. Well, there is no future for our children. That's it. So I'm going to continue listening to you, Baba. And I don't just continue listening to you. We have to make movements, people.
Well, you got to continue like you do every now and then. Make your contribution like you're doing right now. So
I will. I will try.
Thank you.
Will try.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye-bye. Yes, beloved. That was a period when, well, started with Abraham Lincoln when he got the Republican Party was to fight against slavery. Then there came the Civil War, and after that there was Reconstruction. And after Reconstruction came Jim Crow life. Jim Crow. Good afternoon to you. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. What that thing here? Good afternoon. Good afternoon,
Pleasant good afternoon.
and a pleasant welcome and a good afternoon to you.
This call is being recorded.
Well, it's a beautiful day, paradise. We're getting rain. It's a blessing. So,
We
This
welcome
call
it.
is no longer being recorded.
I agree. We always have to struggle. We have to keep up this fight.
Indeed, indeed.
Anytime you have a organized government and you have people in power, they don't hand your right to you on a silver platter. They all came about through a fight.
Uh,
And of course, in the beginning, it was bloody fight, like the Revolutionary War.
uh,
The colonists decided they want to become independent for Great Britain. So they had the Revolutionary War.
yes,
Now, we here, I think the problem is we have become complacent, too complacent, because the United States government is handing to us a lot of things. Just hand out. And we're not fighting for certain rights that we deserve as Americans. We should be treated equal under the U.S. flag, although this is a territory, it's an unincorporated territory like Puerto Rico. But nonetheless, Puerto Rico is a movement to determine their political status. As a matter of fact, they already had a plebiscite. And the prevailing view is they want to be included in America. They want inclusion, incorporation, to become the 51st state. But it's up to Congress to determine that. And I feel we don't even feel like we want to fight for anything. We're satisfied with just getting all the stuff and the Section 8 and FEMA. We're not even fighting to preserve our agricultural land. People are selling the land. And I would anybody that have land, they need to hold on to it.
well, if I might interrupt, if I might take a quick interruption.
This call
The-
is being recorded.
Wow.
Hello?
Yes, I'm interrupting to just point out to you that most of the fertile land that is vacant is owned by the government.
Right.
Doesn't pay any land tax, doesn't pay anything, and all it does is go cash out and in the grass, so that when you speak of, people selling land and they shouldn't sell the land, basically it's individuals who, for one reason or the other, have no choice but to sell because of their situation. But this is why you hear me call for homesteading, because there is so much vacant, fertile land, and there are so many people who could make that land productive to help us as a territory and an island. But again, we don't have the leadership.
We don't have the people fighting for those rights.
Well, if we had the leadership, we'd be teaching these things in school. The very thing that you're discussing here. You could be a teacher head of a classroom teaching them to the students. But the students, don't matter how great they are with their studies, if they're not exposed to these things, how can they learn it?
Well, I believe the vote that the politician gets is a reflection of the society, the value. If they value getting their own land, becoming entrepreneurs, they will go out and demand it from the elected officials.
I agree with all of that, but all I'm saying is that if you are exposed to this with your formal education, you will have the ambition and the drive to do these things. But if you're not exposed to it, then you're ignorant of these things you don't know. And sometimes crime, seems to be the fastest way to success, stupid as it is. But if you don't know better, a lot of people fall for this. And this is why education is so critically relevant to our people who are descendants of enslaved people.
Well, I agree with that. And
I mean, it's
I
not
want
even
to-
100 years yet that we have a high school at St. Croix. It was in the 1930s that we first had a high school at St. Croix. Christensen High School. It was in the 1930s. So that, this is how far behind we are. And we still, are not giving our children the education that they so richly deserve.
and yet some of us prevail despite that education. And I think, we have a lot of improvements in making our educational system. But here you have the Arab communities, the Palestinians. They don't have an ancestral tie to Africa, but they come and they get together and they have businesses, they're thriving. I don't hear them coming in the airways complaining. I don't hear them saying, begging the government to do anything to them. In fact, it's the government that goes to them, the politicians go to them for donations. And so it's possible, but we have to start for ourselves, try to be more self-sufficient instead of relying on the government for everything. We got to do things on our own. We have to take some initiative
I am
ourselves.
agreed in everything you say except education. It's not on our own. That falls on government. That is their responsibility.
Yeah, the government is responsible. I'm not saying that. But in order for the government to operate and function smoothly, they have to collect revenue. And we see a lot of revenues going out of the territory because of the terrible conditions of the hospitals. Our entire healthcare system is shambles. People have to leave and go to Cleveland Clinic and other places in the United States. That money is going out of the territory. And I'm saying, at the same time, I am not, yes, you're correct, I'm not hearing it from the politicians that leadership you're talking about, the inside, outside of cultivation.
Well, this is
I'm not
just
getting
it.
But
And all I'm saying is that the things that you are saying is what the kind of discussion that should be taking place in the first branch of government. The senators should be discussing this thing. How can they make education available for all our students? Education should be available and it should be relevant. We are the descendants of enslaved people. People who were not exposed to education for generations. We have a lot of catching up to do. And I mean, this is just it, and here we are in court trying to get our government to understand that, hey, we're not looking at any trouble here. All we're asking for is to give us all the education that you can possibly give us. We want to be educated. We want to be exposed to what ambition can bring us. And again, there are people like yourself, who have the natural incentive to be ambitious, to achieve. But the masses of our people are not like that. They need that education to give them the motivation to move forward. And that's all that we're begging for, education.
Well, I understand the message, and I am doing my part. As a private citizen and a community activist, I appointed myself as the 21st century digital historian of the U.S. Virgin Islands.
Good for you. Congratulations. We
and
need
that's
more.
I get videos, I get feedback from people all around the world.
Well, we need more. We need more. We cannot get too much education. All right? We cannot get too much education. Well, we're at the top of the hour, so you have the last The last word, we
Thank you. Keep up the fight. Thanks.
thank you, thank you. With that, beloved, we said to you, hey, we are trying to understand it. Whole train, we are going to come back to you on the line, and we will be right back. Beloved, we continue to do our best to stay on the path, that road that is education, because, well, I am holding the fort, talking the talk, hopefully walking the walk, on behalf of my one and only sister. So I am trying to hold the fort. And I have been, well, doing my best to explain the two kinds of knowledge, the one that we call science and the other one that we call humanity. And that science is the same wherever you go. It doesn't change. Science is science. 1 + 1 is 2 wherever you go. But humanities differ because the humanities are just a people's way of life. And different people live their lives differently in different parts of the world. And Earlier, we were pointing out some of the things that make a difference. Some places are colder, some places warmer, and they make a difference as to whether your humanity is this way or that way. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Welcome.
Phil?
Hello.
Yes, yes. So I think what I heard the earlier conversation you had. I'm not sure if you cleared it up, but I think you're leaving out one other area of studies,
Help me out.
which I think the person was kind of getting confused with. So there is the hard sciences, like chemistry, physics, biology, which is what you're more or less referring to as the sciences, where there are facts, conclusions, and and you can pull math into that. The solid facts. 1+1 is 2. But then there are the social sciences, or what they call the soft sciences, which is psychology, sociology, those kind of things, where they're not as rigid facts, they are more probabilities. This is what you would like if you collect 100 of these people or this situation. So many of them are going to be like this, and they give it in terms of percentages. So 90% is 90 out of 100. So that's things like, for example, if you're examining teenage pregnancies, and you say, okay, high school girls, so many percentage of them are likely to be pregnant by the age of so and so.
Yeah.
Those are not, it's not they're not hard facts, not hard outcomes like in the hard sciences. You got to collect 100 high school girls, and you say, okay, 6% of them are going to wind up pregnant, which is 6 out of the 100. But you can't say which 6. You can't. It's not like a hard science. You can't say these 6 are going to wind up being pregnant.
Yeah.
It's not that, because it brings in the human behavior, the human brain, where there's so many things that affect. And so you can only kind of come up with probability, not definite that this girl is going to get pregnant. Because the amount of things factors that determine whether she's going to get pregnant, you don't have the ability, you aren't there with her whole life, you don't have the ability to collect that, to make that kind of a prediction. So they call those the soft sciences. And so I think that's the kind of stuff he was talking about as for behavioral sciences. Those are sciences, but they are soft sciences, because you can't collect the data that you would need to make the hard predictions.
I have no qualms with your contribution here. I am just for the sake of our discussion, breaking knowledge down into 2 kinds, period. And it's either science or it's a humanity. And there's no conditioning to a science so that you could make one softer than the other. It's either science or it's a humanity. That's my approach to the discussion, because what I'm trying to get to is to point out that, hey, before we were colonized, before we were enslaved, before we were conquered, we had our own humanities. And they, some of the business, like the pyramid, that's now from 5,000 years old. It's 5,000 years. And again, what do you call it? The soft science or the hard science? They have not been able to figure it out. But within that period of 5,000 years, they came so much that changed our perception including the fact that we had to flee to escape the barbarians who successfully invaded Egypt. We lost all of this. And I'm just trying to point out, says, hey, there is a way if we understand that we had African humanities. How did we control the overflow of the Nile? Where did that geometry come from? These are the humanities that were lost to us. And we are now in a struggle to regain, well, what we would say, our mental emancipation. But we see this emancipation in terms of the humanities of them and those who literally conquered us, the humanities of those who enslaved us, the humanity of those who conquered us. And we're saying, hey, I don't want to hear, how those sciences were conditioned, because I want us to be able to grasp that we, in fact, as a people, had humanities. Just like today, Europeans will tell you they have their humanities. Asian people tell you, hey, they have their humanities. But they will also tell you that Africans are very inferior people. We were primates. We never had humanities. And if not for the civilization that came with conquest, that came with enslavement, that came with colonization, you still wouldn't have humanities. This is what I am trying my best to, explain. And when it comes to you, I don't have the ability to articulate like you do. You should be a diplomat, actually.
Well, and if you know what humanities are, you would realize that that's an impossibility for a group of people not to have them. Because along with it is their history, their culture. Any group has a culture. Any group has a history.
Yes.
So any group has humanity. Music is a humanity. Any group has music. So there's an impossibility for a group of people not to have humanity.
But you see how effectively you articulate this? But look at how effectively you articulated it. And I'm stumbling through here trying to be understood.
We all have our talents and gifts. There are many things you do that I can't. So everybody is bestowed. Nobody has them all, and everybody is bestowed on some.
I am trying to ensnare you. I am trying to ensnare some of your capabilities, for the greater use, my beloved audience.
Right.
I feel a responsibility.
We know that they definitely existed. The only question is, were they recorded? And the question becomes,
yes, they were. Right. I mean, again, if you want to read, it's the most, but Ashurbanipal in the 7th century, Cambyses in the 6th century made a bonfire of what the Europeans called the books of Thoth.
Oh, okay. Which is why it's effective.
Yes. They burned it down. This is why they come up with Aristotle with the library in Alexandria. After they had burned.
That's why they can say so confidently that we don't have humanities because they burned them.
Hey, thank you.
The question does become, I'm like, okay, you're telling me nobody in Egypt wrote down how the pyramids came about?
Well, that's what I'm saying to you. Yes, if you could, have you ever heard of the Cambyses? You ever heard of the Persians?
Only from you.
All right. The Persian invasion of Egypt in the 6th century. Look into it. That which reminds me, it was you who caused me. You know what a kokolo is? Kokolo. C-O-C-O-L-O.
the modern,
Pardon me?
huh?
C.
I know the modern use of it. I don't know if that's the real use.
Well, a kokolo is how the Dominicans from the Dominican Republic refer to people who came from the Eastern Caribbean, to work in the
Right.
Dominican Republic. Well, they refer to them as cocolos. You caused me to look up an old cocolo that I know here because I had to be able to tell you that it was in, I'm already forgetting the year already, but that it was in 1844 that the Dominican Republic became independent.
Mhm.
You remember that? Did you give me that assignment? It just came to
Right.
me. And what the Cocolo said to me says, Mario, you should know better. Every February, we have our Independence Day and we celebrate it right there at the DC Canadian Park. February 27th is our Independence Day. And I said, oh my God, I'm getting old. I am getting old, because yes, they do. And it was February 27th, 1844. But again, I digress. I was trying to point out that yes, we need to understand that in fact, there is a story, whether you want to call it history or not. There is a story as to how we came from the mountains and the moon tens of thousands of years ago to the Nile River Valley that would later be called the Garden of Eden. And we were able to, develop the sciences by means of our humanity. And yes, there is a period of time. It's in the 6th century, I think it's around 525 BC, that Cambyses, led the Persian army into Egypt, knocked out Ashurbanipal, who put in the first white pharaoh, a Libyan, in ancient Egypt. And I was from the 7th century BC. That was the beginning of the end of Egypt being a Black African civilization. And it was becoming what today we refer to as more and more Semitic.
And what year was that again?
The 6th century.
The 6th century.
Year before the 6th century is when, yes, Cambyses, was successfully invaded what was already conquered land, because Ashurbanipal led his Babylonians. That was in the 7th century. And he installed Libya, and that was in the 7th century BC. This was the beginning of the end of Black ancient Egypt. From that point forward, it was, they call it the Exodus, when the Israelites had to leave Egypt. But we refer to what those of us who read a little bit more, we call the Exodus, when actually Ashurbanipal was successful and then Cambyses was successful. This was the exodus of Black Africans out of Northeast Africa, the Nile River Valley, to populate all of Africa. And you will find that previous to this, where are you going to find the African kingdoms? The millions of Africans, they're all in the Nile River Valley. Ethiopia didn't exist before the 7th century. These places didn't exist before the successful invasion of what some people call it the Shepherd Kings and all of these nonsense and whatnot. But Exclusive was from Assyria and Babylon. And Cambyses is from Persia, which is today Iran. I'm like, who knows?
Were you able to find out how the disproportionate sharing of Hispaniola occurred? Because one thing that I suspected, and after I talked to you, I did some searches on the internet, that the area that Haiti has, the coastal line that Haiti has, is more mountainous and ridges. They don't have as many beach front coastal areas. So presently, the Dominican Republic is doing well in tourism for all the resorts that they have, but Haiti is not, because they have a lot of cliffs, not beaches.
Well,
and so the question, and it's almost like they almost got pushed off of it. It's like they just barely are hanging on to the island. So
I had to admit to the Kokolo. I had to admit to the Kokolo that again, it must be my age, but I forgot to get it out of it. But actually, the Dominicans were trying their best and they succeeded, in declaring independence because they did not want the Spaniards to be successful. Why? Because the Spaniards would have brought back slavery.
Right.
As they had in Cuba and Puerto Rico.
Mm-hmm.
And again, at the time, there was a lot of instability on the Haitian part of the Hispaniola. And the Dominican Republic were able to take advantage of this by declaring the independence and holding on to it, because the Spaniards helped.
Right. Right. And I think that that separates them is again another mountain. I think I've heard this already. That is in the mountainous region.
Yes.
That is really what defines their boundaries. And so I guess the Spaniards and the Dominicans weren't successful to go beyond that because of the terrain. And that's maybe what
the Haitians embraced the city because this is what gave them the advantage over the French.
Right. Right. Right.
But there's a lot more to it, but you're headed in the right direction.
Yeah. And I said with things, there are things that make you realize that there has to be more to the story.
Right.
So even like with Egypt, the pyramids, nobody is successful yet. So there's some missing pieces. You can't have these being built, even if aliens came down and built them. Nobody's talking about that. Nobody's recording that. Nobody's saying, "Oh yeah, remember when these strange beings came and built these pyramids?" So there's some missing history.
Well, it's a big missing in the Bible. When you search the Old Testament, all you would, go to the New Testament. Why can't you find the Bible? Why can't you find a pyramid in the Bible?
Yeah.
You can find Moses. You can find Moses.
Joseph going there. They talk about the brothers going there. Then they talk about the Moses, but no mention of Jewish people working on the pyramid.
Thank you. Thank
no
you.
mention of it anywhere.
Thank you.
And we know they exist because mean, all kinds of
Thank
pictures
you.
of. We are fascinated by them.
Thank you.
You tell me the people of that time had zero interest?
Well, that's why I am so sorry that I am not a young man with a lot of years ahead of me, because I certainly wanted to get a better grip of how the humanities were just removed from us. Let's put it that way. Just totally removed from us and gave us this primate tribalism.
It also points to the fact that we're not a curious people and that we accept a lot. You know, I tell people a unicorn could descend from the sky in the middle of Christian bed, and everybody would go along like if it was a youth day. Like nothing unusual happened that day. We just accept a lot.
Yes, indeed.
And move on. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
And the pyramids are basically like that. Those they're just there. You know, who built them? How they turned out there? We aren't really concerned about that.
They are.
A unicorn descended from the sky and built the pyramids, and then took off.
Huh?
Well, hopefully you'll drum up some interest in the humanities, and that we have people.
Well, I am just happy to have you as my most trenchant, caller, and hey, I just try my best to just tickle your
Well, you do a good job.
and sit back
Yeah.
and
You
sit
do a
back
good
and,
job at that.
well, you articulate very well.
Yeah, thanks. You get me to think about something that thought in the past, and other things I haven't thought about, and it does make you, there used to, there was something the things that make you go, like I think they made a song out of it. And that's what your show does.
Be curious then. And we thank you for sharing your curiosity with us.
No problem.
All righty.
But
Good afternoon.
Hello?
Hello, good afternoon. I'm thanking you, welcoming you, and again, thank you so much for your patience.
Yes, thank you. That was a lot of patience. Yes, Mario, I'm calling to introduce an example of science mixed with humanity that's going to occur here tomorrow at the legislature conference room, 10 o'clock. Bill 36-0211 will be heard, and I'm asking the people to come out and see this hearing, because we're going to be introducing science and hoping that our senators have the humanity to protect what makes science possible. And what makes science possible.
I love it.
What makes science possible is our environment that shapes us. And if we get poisoned by our environment, we cannot survive. And in trying to survive, we become vicious, savage of a people.
No, that's an existential fact. We cannot survive without an environment. We cannot.
Right. And in them losing their humanity and passing this bill, they are compromising our existence. Because we need soil, we need water, we need air, we need food, we need fire. And our federal state environment is being compromised by totally, completely illegal rum distillery that's operating down there with only commercial farming license. And they're trying to compromise for that individual, Robert Axel of Prosperity Farm Distillery. They're trying to compromise and pass a bill to allow him to continue to maintain his own personal humanity in the guise of economic opportunity for our people. While our people is out there in them fields being exposed to glyphosate, more popularly known as Roundup, okay, and the soil is being poisoned with vinasse, the waste from cane distillation. Doesn't matter where they're making spirit or rum, they're distilling vinasse, and the waste from that is poisoning our aquifer, our soil, our coast, and they want to extend it on other agricultural land and non-residential land. And the last thing I'm going to say, Mario, when I was in the States in college and I was having a conversation with an African brother, and we were talking about education, and I said something to him about getting an education there in college. And he's the one hit it to me and said, this is not an education here. This is a training.
That's right.
And he's so right.
That's right. There's a big difference between education and training. You train somebody to do what you want them to do. When you educate them, you're educating them to be the best they can be for themselves.
That's right. And I had a teacher, Mr. Gilead, that went to Hampton Institute. It was Hampton Institute at the time.
Yeah.
I took a ceramics class with him, and he probably was the first. Well, me and him had a lot of conversation, and he liked to talk to me because I was from the Caribbean. And he told me this. He said, when we started this, when I was going to Hampton Institute, the motto was the hand, the head, and the heart. And he said to me, when they started bringing in people like IBM and Xerox and all those big corporations, that they changed. The hand, head, and heart philosophy changed. And they started training us to work for them. You know, and that's the problem here. And I have to say, we cannot depend on our government to educate us. Our education will come from reading Shekanta Diop, The African Origin of Civilization, Gerald Massey, Ancient Egypt, Light of the World, Francis Cress Welsing, Frantz Fanon, and the like. We have to start that at home. And then when we go in the school system, we don't know when they're lying to us or not.
Absolutely. Well said. Well said.
And that's my piece. And again, people, Mario, you know more than anybody else. And I'm humble in my spirit that I gave up on this political or this senatorial voting process. But I find that I have to get back to it, and I've gotten back to it. I went and I re-registered myself.
Very good. Very good. Very good.
I'm hoping the people then do the same, because no action is them getting back in doing the same old thing. And we need to get involved and start voting, and especially support your sister's bill as she's pushing for paper ballot.
Yes.
And again, we have to come together and support each other on whatever fight we choose to fight, you hear me? Because I'm really seeing what we lose in these islands to the rich.
Well, they have.
We don't even have to fighting no more. It's the rich, the people with money.
Yes, indeed. And they have successfully kept us divided, you know, and hating on each other, you know, so that they can be successful.
Yeah, Mario, and the young people in Frederickson hating on me around this island because I'm dealing with this issue with prosperity, and they're not aware. And I'm telling you, people come out tomorrow and listen to this hearing. It's done. I wish people had come to the town hall in more numbers, where we did a presentation to show the scientific evidence of what is happening at prosperity. why we want that distillery moved.
Uh.
The evidence is there, and the young people lack the humanity because they don't have the scientific information. That place is polluting the earth, and that place don't have to shut down and anybody lose any jobs. We're asking that it be removed and placed on industrial land because it's industrial waste that they're generating there. You all who want about upset the ancestors and dance in plantation, farmhouse, and drink the farm rum, that's up to you. You know, you could keep it for all I really care. My thing is get that distillery off of the property. Make them start over somewhere else. Make them do the proper mitigation procedures to treat the nuts before they inject it back in our earth. And it should not be done there on Prosperity Farm. What Martinique is doing is way up in the hills, away from beaches, way away from people, and they're doing a nice job with treating the nuts that they are generating. And he is trying to fashion after them. But as the war is, he tried to partner with them and they left him there because he don't want to listen to nobody. And he admits he's not a farmer. He's a Wall Street man. So why aren't you listening? And again, you should have been there to hear him speak through a recording where he's fabricating stuff, lying to the people, said I ain't spraying nothing. Now we have evidence, we have pictures. People come and see the science tomorrow at 10 o'clock at the legislature hall. I'm tired of attacking someone for the last few months. So I'm going to leave it right there. Mario, thanks for this time for allowing me.
Take a deep breath and get this because, hey, we need you. We need you.
Yeah, man. I going to be here.
Thank you.
Stay with me.
Thank you.
God hold there with me.
Thank you. Stay strong with you. Stay strong.
All right.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bush, beloved, we will be right back. So let's go straight to the lines, beloved. Good afternoon. Thank you for your
good
time.
afternoon, Baba. It's me again, one more time.
Well, hey, we are room for you. So
Okay.
feel welcome and talk to me.
All right. So a couple weeks ago, Miss Moorhead was on her show that you are on her show right now today.
Right.
So she was mentioning that parents, to encourage them to to go to the schools, because they're entitled to 2 hours.
Yeah.
But right now, there is a controversy going on within certain entities, institutions, I might say. I don't want to call the names, but what is happening now is that there is an act, right? Act number 8369, right? The Women, Children, and Family Act. This was what Janelle Sorrell, I guess, when her tenure was in, when she was a Senate, that she authored in 2020. So now, this law gives you 2 hours per month per child, not 2 hours for a month. So I just wanted to ask your sister, but I guess she's listening. I hope she's listening. And is that accurate? Because there was an act that was passed that would give a parent that has more than one child 2 hours per child. So as I read it, it says this law gives you 2 hours per month per child to visit your child's school without loss of pay or benefits. That means you can meet with teachers, counselors, such and so forth. If you have 3 children, you have 6 hours a month. It also means that if you work for a company receiving tax benefits through the EDA, the law also applies to you. So please take advantage of this law. This was in 2020. So please take advantage of this law and stay active in your child's education. So she was saying that for clarity, here is the language from the act. So you have the act where she says, parents, foster parents, or legal guardians who are full-time employees of the government of the Virgin Islands, its instrumentalities, autonomous and semi-autonomous agencies, as well as employees of employers who receive benefits under the Industrial Development Program and Act number 4740, are entitled to 2 hours per month per child off from the job. So what I'm saying is that because there are some people out here that has brought it to, let's say, people in higher positions like supervisors or what, and they respond to the workers that needs to go to these schools is, where are you get that information from? Where are you get that from? All I know is just 2 hours a month. So I just wanted to just bring that on the ear for anybody that's listening. It is Act number 8369. Act 8369. Something that was passed in 2020 to give people who have more than one child more than 2 hours. Okay? So I just wanted to call you back and touch up with you with that one, because on the last time she was on her show, she said, make sure you guys go to the school and visit your child's school because you are entitled to 2 hours. So I don't know if Ms. Moorhead is aware that it has changed to 2 hours per child. So if a parent has more than one child, they are entitled to have however much hours they need to go and see each child teacher, okay? That's all I wanted to let you know.
Well, again, you are contributing as always, and everybody needs to get this information so that they can take advantage of
Yes, they need to, because like I said, the supervisors them and certain people are giving legal staff members a little hard time because they're not understanding where did you get that information from.
Yeah.
So so I just had to let you know that, okay?
Very good, very good. Critical information for us to know.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you so much for this. Yes, sir.
All right.
Good afternoon. Hello. Good afternoon. Nobody there, beloved. Nobody there. Hello? No. All right. Moving on, beloved. We have been hopefully with a measure of success, we have been trying to establish that as a conquered people, as an enslaved people, as a colonized people, we were dehumanized and made to believe that if not for this conquest, enslavement, and colonization, that we would be just uncivilized primates swinging in trees and whatnot. And hopefully, we've made some inroads in our discussion to have it understood that, beloved, all human beings have humanities, because that is how we describe the way people live. We all have humanities. Our situation is that because we were dehumanized, we were led to believe that we never had humanities, and therefore never had the intellectual tools with which to understand the very sciences that make us function in the world. And not knowing any different, not being exposed to any education, we have, for lack of guidance, we have accepted the humanities of our conquerors, enslavers, and colonizers. We have accepted their humanities as the pinnacle of knowledge that we should all be striving for, not realizing that, beloved, no, that's the last thing we want to do. But it is what we're doing. Copying the humanities of our conquerors, of our enslavers, of our colonizers, so that when it comes down to today, is that, beloved, right here in St. Croix, Virgin Islands of the United States, we have been made to believe, as Akala pointed out, we have been trained to believe, because that's the difference between training and education. We have been trained to believe that we should be striving to imitate the very people responsible for our condition. Because, beloved, we actually think that we are an inferior people. That compared to those people, those white people who conquered us, those white people who enslaved us, those white people who colonized us, beloved, incredible as it might sound, we are now trying our best to shed our inferiority so that we could become, well, better Americans. And beloved, most unfortunate, this is how we have found ourselves trying to emancipate our mind. But that ain't gonna work. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, can I speak to Mr. Morris?
Welcome, welcome, welcome. You're speaking to Mario right now.
Okay, okay. Yes, Mr. Morris, I'm back again.
We are room for you, man.
Well, is there a common humanity, a common thread of
No, there is not, because every people have their own. Wherever you live, that helps to condition the humanity that you have. That's why I gave the example about if you live in a cold environment, it's this way. If you live in a warm environment, it's that way.
but
You know.
but the overarching reality, if you're a human being, you create culture to adapt to your environment. That's the definition.
Right, but because you have been dehumanized, we are made to believe.
Don't go into that. We don't lost, we probably have lost some of our practices and tradition and custom, but human beings, that fire, that imprint of being human is still within us and within every human being. And there are basic common denominators within all human ethnic or racial groups.
But that's and again, I don't disagree with you, yes. But you're assuming that the masses of people think like that. And I'm saying to you, no. The masses of people have been made to believe they're inferior.
That's a belief, that's a belief, right? You could learn that, but you could unlearn that. But common to all human beings, there is something that is more substantial and enduring through the humiliation, the degradation, and the added inferiority complexes that will survive that. I think there was a philosopher or a thinker that said that truth crushed to earth will arise when I think of the cream will rise to the top. There's something with
But Brian used to say that all the time.
I know Mr. Brian saying it, but I think he probably get it from a person, a philosopher, but I heard Mr. Brian uttering that several times.
Yes.
And it is a truism. It is an axiom. It is axiomatic. I based on if you look at the fact that use the moon as the illustration, the dark moon is death, and then when it is rebound to the center is light, the sun setting and things. So it's based a philosophy based on those natural rhythms regardless if African, European, Asian, food, shelter, and the family situation and some other particulars. There is universal examples of culture or humanity, and that comes to every human being. Regardless of the cold climate, he has to eat, he has to have family, and he will educate his family, he will love his family just like the person in the warmer climate. And if this doesn't translate enough, the human quality or nature of being inquisitive and adapting with the environment, he will develop language. And if you live in a community, because culture requires community as that prerequisite and preliminary that attach itself to culture and community and government, it will eventually develop. Because that's within the human being. That's a part of his character and nature. It may develop in others faster than others. It may take a while to develop. It may be checked because of exploitation and slavery, but it is within all human beings. That's how I look at it.
But again, you know, you are not the average person.
No, Mr. No. I am the average. I am the average.
Well, I say you're not. The average can't even articulate, you know, some of the issues that you are sharing with us here.
There's a capacity and the ability, just like me, Mr. Morehead, and just like you.
When they,
I find you what you do. I mean, that's mental energy that it requires discipline. I mean, some people might can't stand the pain to go through.
well, that's all that I'm saying, that the majority of our people have not been exposed to it. They have not had the education. If anything, they have been trained to be American. This is where we are at this point here now. That this is, you know, the ceiling that we can attain is to be a loyal, patriotic American.
So, Mr. Morehead, I see myself as an American as well as an African. I would determine and pick from America those good and those things that are
Yes,
strong.
yes, and that's why you're not the average person.
No, I think we are.
Okay, all right.
You live in America, you partake of the freedom and the accessibility to the knowledge and whatever have been beneficial to help you with your situation. I believe other people will do the same way. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you, and I hear what you're expressing as your beliefs. You're entitled to your beliefs, but again, your beliefs are not science. And so that you could be, you know, just as wrong as the next person.
I don't know, let me show you an example, right? We're full of this as well as patronized in our faith. We heard about, I grew up hearing, rockabye baby on the treetop when you etc. You heard about that in that nursery, right?
Yes,
Nursery
yes,
song, right?
yes,
You heard about Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
yes,
You heard about the boots that made the golden egg, right?
yes.
And so forth. But that is common. You will find that within the African context, within Egypt and other African things, and you will find it in a farm show, the Pacific region, whether in Hawaii and this to a different degree, a more primitive farm of it, and you find it. You heard about the two brothers, I think William Jacob Grimm, and William Grimm, who laid the foundation for this collection of these nursery and folk tales in European situations. But they are common throughout. If you do a linguist, a comparative mythology or comparative language and those comparative studies, you will see that there are similarities. And I think there was a commonality that you want to be humanity in a cultural, there was a form of a cultural expression through types of symbols and also story and mythology that you will find universal. How is it that in Egypt the falcon that representing the sun, and in the Americas you have the eagle, the barred eagle, and you have in certain places you have a predatory bird that represents the sun. How is it so common to these difference of land? There was a commonality somewhere along the line, but anyway, on the top and listen and appreciate the conversation as we go on.
Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much. And as you leave, I says, I am pleased that you are not the average person. I am pleased at that.
All right, you the other to me. All right, thank you.
All the best. Good afternoon. Oh. Good afternoon. All right. Well, beloved, one of these days I will get better at operating the system, this phone system here. But for the time being, that's where it is. But yes, beloved, every people have humanities. More often than not, you find that we would refer to it as our culture. And we'll say, well, our culture, etc., 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 our culture this, our culture that, so forth and so on. But basically, what we're talking about is our humanities. And this is what, well, we're trying, in many cases, very desperately this afternoon to get us to comprehend that we all have our humanities. But now, top of the hour, and we're going to take a break and we'll come right back at it. So hold straight, we'll be right back. back. And yes, beloved, how is it that we come to embrace, lovingly accept our inferiority? Well, as I've said, beloved, time and time again, after July 3rd, 1848, we thought we had broken through and reclaimed our humanities as a people. But, beloved, it wasn't long before we realized that chattel enslavement actually took our humanity from us, made us things, property, objective things that could be bought and sold. Our humanity did not return, because on July 3rd, 1848, we demanded freedom now or else, and were successful with it. But, beloved, all that did is to remove the physical chains that kept us being things, kept us being the property of somebody else. But the removal of the chains did not give us our humanity. Because, beloved, we went from chattel enslavement to contract labor. And the contract labor made our humanity what the estate decided it would be. And most importantly, beloved, as we went from chattel enslavement to contract labor, is that for a minute there, it made us think that we had our freedom to be human, to have our humanity. But very, very soon, we had to wake up to the awareness that no, this is contract labor. And we are still inferior just instead of being inferior to the individual slave owner, we became inferior to the estate in contract labor. And so, October 1st, 1878, we rebelled. And we had the Great Fireburn. And beloved, even though our government will not admit it, and our education department will not teach it, because just was it a couple of weeks ago on my Tuesday program, when we have a crucial history question, we asked a question out of a book that was written by a former governor, a former commissioner of education, Charles Turnbull. And I believe that Marilyn Krieger is still a professor at the University of the Virgin Islands. Well, they authored the book that instead of acknowledging the humanities of the Scandinavian people, who said that the leaders of the Fireburn were witches and therefore had to be burned alive on the stake. Beloved, the likes of Dr. Turnbull and Martin Krieger, they're telling us that the 14 women that were killed in Grove Place, they were killed by explosions of rum barrels. How did rum barrels explode to kill 14 women? What was that? But again, I am pointing to these things to hopefully indicate how our very leaders in education, because Turnbull was a commissioner of education, and in government, because he ended up being a governor of the Virgin Islands, and he is insisting that the 14 women who were killed in Grove Place were killed by exploding rum barrels. Nonetheless, we went on, and contract labor had come to an end with the Fireburn. And yes, the main leaders were executed by firing squad in the Frederiksted Fort, and the 14 women who they accused of being leaders, they claim that they were killed by exploding rum barrels. The one leader, known to us as Queen Mary, they took to England to have an exhibit, like she was some kind of animal in a zoo, for the royal family to inspect. But the point we're making, beloved, is that even after the destruction of the chattel enslavement system on July 3rd, 1848, even after overcoming contract labor with the Great Fireburn of October 1st, 1878, beloved, we still were not able to have our humanities until came that visionary generation that produced the likes of Hubert Harrison, Caspar Holstein, David Hamilton Jackson, and even C.R.T. Brown. You love it? Poetry. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. What's a man doing in the story with something more than sanity, you know? The ship at the Denmark, not England.
I said England?
I had a call to you to make sure that the Israel can clear.
Well, my peace. Well, thank you for that, man.
Yeah, but,
Beloved, yeah, as the Carlos pointed out here, she was shipped to Copenhagen, Denmark, where they had animal in a zoo. And
Yeah, you were mentioning yesterday, you know, we got this governmental land, you know, one of the humanity we lost is the water to feed ourselves.
Right.
Yeah. You know, one of the places that they should start doing these cultivation is right in the schoolyard, that complex, they got a lot of land. You know.
I mean, those are, fertile agricultural land that they put the complex on there. And I mean, like I said, I can't stop complaining about that. I mean, and the worst part of the military component in Bethlehem is like, how in the world you have an 84 square mile island? It's not getting any bigger. You know, how in the world, are you going to cover the fertile land with concrete? Why would you do that?
I mean, we don't, well, not we. I don't drink rum. So, whether it's a cover over or not, that they can't support me.
No, man.
You know, I mean, I disappointed too because, that potato we are eating in the early 70s, especially 72. You know, my father used to, carry some of them potato in the supermarket. Then was a superfood and Grand Union.
Right.
In Black Rock. Yeah. So that, that's where I start, liking planting. Because, on the weekend, my mother will, she will make my that would be our the drink that we will have, after lunch or whatever. And she had to go buy anise, and when I said that anise for plant, it's right in the backyard, anise bed, so we have to go look for anise from here.
Right.
That might be every weekend away, or I make, as you said, from the time they disrupt, the flow of the canals that our ancestors them, them to cultivate, and when the man from the part where it gets cold and snow, he had to go hunt for meat.
That's right.
I will tell the Arabs so they are like, well, so there, he tell you about
but that's right.
There is the first people. I said, what are you know about Vespa and soursop by climbing coconut tree?
Right.
Out in the desert and
I tell you, Father, that wasn't even a desert until they shot the canal. You know, so all these things here, beloved, I'm going a little more in depth than that. I mean, when I looking for some high official, which is the leader, the one that who said this, our leader, show us that they could provide for us by having agriculture, one how well the plans, the initiative to get us to do it for ourselves. And if I can't hear that out of knowledge, well, we won't hear it. I won't see it.
Right.
Yeah, I need to see. I do the little that I could do, and again, you mentioned something how it should, we should at least try doing some homesteading. And I go handle 5 weeks.
But that's the, I mean, obviously they're right in front of us. I mean, what is hundreds of acres or thousands of acres, all the land that used to grow sugarcane is now owned by the government. All right? Now, again, I don't know how many acres done gone because they build this and they build that and all that kind of, I don't know. But they have plenty land.
Plenty.
That is still there. All they do is growing cashew and that. All right? And again, he paid no land tax. Government owned the land. I mean, the most productive thing we had here is when we had the homesteading plan. Instead of the Peterson, matter of fact, let me see, no, I wouldn't call her name, I would have made a call her name here. But again, it was a successful program. The St. Croix Labor Union contributed, over 1,000 acres.
Yeah. I read that in a book.
Well, again.
And still the government do not do it. They still trying to hide it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, I just really, I had a great guess.
Do you think, man? Thank you for the call, eh?
All right.
Good thing. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Welcome back.
I was looking at the national news, and an article came out about air pollution and its connection to Alzheimer's.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah. They find that people who are in highly air polluted areas tend to get Alzheimer's at a much higher rate.
Wow.
And they're looking at, they classify the air pollution into on by the size of the particles. There's the PM, particulate matter 10, which was the bigger size is 10 microns. And then particulate matter 2.5 on the smaller. The 10 micron ones can get trapped in your lungs and cause problems. The 2.5 micron ones are small enough to pass through the lung and into the bloodstream, and then ended up in all parts of your body, including the brain.
Wow.
And so they find that this is what seems to be happening with Alzheimer's, that a lot of these particles end up in the brain, causing inflammation in the brain, which then causes Alzheimer's. They had saw it connected to Alzheimer's in the past, but they were seeing it through strokes and heart attacks. That said, these things can get into your bloodstream, end up in your heart, end up clogging areas in your blood, causing strokes.
Well, I hope that our government will they make themselves familiar with this as they continue to talk about restarting our oil refinery.
Right. So that's not going to help. But I have been talking about this talk shows before, because years ago I was involved in a study of this. The Sequoia Environmental Association got a grant from the EPA to do a study in this, and so they got me to do it. And so I was at major intersections from Christian said to Frederick said, checking for these particular matter. I had a feature, and we were looking at it particularly for car pollution, because you could get this from cars, and so like a lot of these big trucks and stuff that were putting out all these black fumes and stuff.
Yeah.
So we were looking at how many automobiles had this. And of course we saw, what was expected, but what was surprising though is that the trucks weren't our highest reading. Our highest readings came from when any vehicle, including trucks, kicked up the dirt at the side of the roads. That's when we got the highest readings of both PM10 and PM2.5.
Interesting.
So the dirt at the side of the road and all these roads and intersections is a problem. And whenever I'm walking and a car passes by and kicks up these dirt, I hold my breath. We need to start clearing the roads of these fine particles that build up there. And then many intersections have them. Near schools, near shopping areas, and whenever a car runs to the side of the road and kicks those up, people are sucking down, breathing in these fine particles. And it's not just Alzheimer's. Every time I turn around and look at the news, I find that they're connected to Parkinson's. They found people who live in highly polluted areas tend to have that at a higher rate. What Jesse Jackson just died of, cerebral palsy, that is also linked to pollution. There are many things that ail people. Diabetes, type 2 diabetes is also connected to that. That people who live in areas that have poor air quality, that have high levels of PM10 and especially PM2.5. And these are so small particles you don't even realize you're breathing them in. They're very, very, very tiny. So it's not like it's just making you cough or hurting your throat or your lungs as they go down. You don't even realize it's happening.
But this is information that our leadership, our government should view as critical, because again, we're such a small community.
Yes. And we can't handle the expenses of the illnesses that our hospitals are in terrible condition. But even if they were, the expense of dealing with these diseases and stuff that come from it, just trying to regulate type 2 diabetes, that's why we're pouring money into these things. So even if our hospitals were under, the best in the world, this would still be a problem for the amount of money we would have to put in battling the diseases and the things that come from the negative effects that come from these things. And what they can do, again, public works, periodically go to these sites, have your workers wear masks so they're not breathing in, and collect this dust. There are machines back, the thing that you go around and it sucks the stuff up. So our legislature, our government can do stuff to help protect us, created jobs, and improving the health of our, especially since we do it up. But I said, even when they get that together, it still would be the sensible thing to do. Right. To stop money from bleeding of our community and our people dying.
another expense again. We pay coming and going.
But that's
And this is something I said that I've been back in 2014, I think I was doing these studies and was talking about them years and years after.
well,
And it's as if nothing ever happened, as if we don't have any added knowledge.
no, I mean, things that we do consider as problematic, we only talk about. And I'm referencing the fact like, WAPA is in the midst of a residential area, and we
Yeah.
talk and talk about it. It needs to be moved to the south side, in the industrial zone and so forth, but it's just been a lot of
And
talk.
they put out some serious pollution. They've been fined by the EPA for their air quality, for the smoke that they've been putting out.
Yeah.
I know somebody was living in that area and they would get like black soot on their house windows and screens.
But that's what I mean. We talk about it. Been a lot of talk, but that's it. Just talk.
Yep. And there's things WAPA can do, but of course it's going to cost money, so they don't. But they can put on filters. There's all kinds of things. But the thing is, that also points to the fact we do not value our people. Our legislatures don't value our people. Our people in the government agencies don't value our people. So whether we get Alzheimer's, true diabetes, Parkinson's, cerebral palsy, don't bother them when they go to bed.
Well,
They don't see it as a loss
yeah.
when people die of these things,
Well,
because they don't see any value to us.
yeah.
And that's the thing. That's why nothing is done. If somebody thought something was valuable, they would put it out in the reed to run and to the elements to do whatever with.
I don't
That's
know.
when somebody would care about something, when they leave it to the elements.
Yeah.
And that's a sad fact. We don't want to admit it. But that it can only be the situation that they're not really worried too much about us. I mean, look at the hospital. There's no way they could value us and have a hospital in that state for
Yeah.
that long.
It's not even considered a hospital anymore.
No, I'm not even sure you could even call it a MASH unit. A MASH unit might be a little bit better.
Yeah, but again, we have the most highly compensated elected government in the Caribbean, but Lord Harry, the judge, we certainly don't benefit from, this highly compensated elected officials.
Yeah. Well, again, I guess it comes to the fact that we don't value ourselves. And so if you don't value yourself, you will let people treat you any which way.
And this is why I take it very seriously that the lack of education is a contributor, serious contributor to the high murder rate, the high rate of violence, period, in our community.
And it's even beyond, even before they get to the violence. You don't keep up on the news and stuff. So there was something on the consortium this morning. This man in St. Thomas got arrested for abuse of a child or something like that. So the story goes is, I don't know what she was to her, so baby mama, I guess. She got ill and had to go in the hospital in February. She came out, but she was, still wasn't back to normal. So he was supposed to have Monday off for vacation, holiday. So she asked him
to look after their 1-year-old because she wasn't, she hadn't really quite recuperated from whatever the illness was.
Yeah.
So he had her. Then apparently, I guess this 1-year-old became too much for him. I don't know. They give a reason. But he carried the child back to the woman's place. But he didn't knock on the door or anything like that. He said he saw her car in the yard, so she figured it was him. He should have left the baby at the side of the yard, on the side of the road,
What?
in a duffel bag.
What?
And then called the mother later on, telling her that the child was there.
Oh.
In a duffel bag.
Oh. I never said I don't know how to relate to that.
But it shows where we become and how much value we place in each other.
Yeah.
And so and so I was telling you about leaving things out into the element. I wasn't even thinking about this. And I kind of forgot about that. And that's exactly what he did. He left his 1-year-old child in a duffel bag out in the elements.
Oh.
And then called her. So when the mother went out, he was gone. And she found the child at the side of the road in the duffel bag. So she took some pictures and called the police. And so he got arrested. This is what we've come to. And from the mugshot, he doesn't look like an evil guy. He doesn't look like a child. He just looks like the average guy. Yeah, and apparently, he thought this was okay. This was okay behavior towards his 1-year-old daughter.
It's what our system of miseducation is producing.
Yeah, that we do not value each other. He is not thinking that that child is going to grow up and do anything that's going to contribute to his well-being. Because if he did, he would not have left her out in a duffel bag at the side of the road. And somebody could have run over her. Some wild animal could have attacked her.
Anything. I mean, it's just despicable that I can't find the words to describe that. I don't know.
I'm like you. I don't even know how you end up with that mindset to do something like this. Is the one thing is certain, he did not value that child for you. He would have left his gold chain out at the side of the road.
You know that for a fact. You know that. But I gotta take this break and I'll take a deep breath on this one here because
you probably need a break at this point.
Yes indeed.
Yeah.
Yes indeed.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
Right.
Thank you again. Don't stop being you.
I'll try not.
Yeah. Try really hard.
All right.
Beloved, hold straight. We will be right back. We're back, beloved. We're back, and let's go to the phone line with the car holder. So let's go right there. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Brother Mario. How are you today?
I am well. I hope you are, and I want to welcome you.
I like what you say, Licky Cream, Armstrong Ice Cream.
Yes,
Like it.
indeed. Yes, indeed.
That's right. And I gotta thank your sponsor, Armstrong Ice Cream, for the program. Very few callers actually recognize your sponsors as should.
Well,
There's a lot of them call.
let me be, clear now. Today is not the Armstrong Ice Cream program. That's on Tuesday. Wednesday, today.
Okay, understand.
My one and only sister's program that I'm sitting in for.
I know.
Good.
Sitting for sister.
Good.
I got you now. Okay. Anyway, I'm Chaz Hollywood Nix. A lot of you might not know who he's talking to, Mario. Mario, I have a concern. I
Please.
noticed that former President Barack Obama became, since the death of civil rights icon Jesse Jackson, I noticed he came out in the mainstream media stating that, and one thing that he said is that Jackson paved his way to be president. Now, that's something that's very serious. That's a very serious statement. And in so doing, I did some research and I found out that President Bill Clinton at the time is the one that awarded Jesse Jackson the Presidential Medal of Freedom. And I also did further research to state that it can be rewarded by other presidents. That means Mario can be rewarded the Medal Honor of Freedom for the next 5 consecutive presidents. Period. Okay? And then further investigation revealed that, for instance, Colin Powell, he received the Presidential Medal of Honor from George Bush as well as Bill Clinton. But President and former President Barack Obama never awarded him that. So all of a sudden, because he's gone now, posthumously, he's recognizing that, if it wasn't for Jackson paving the way for my presidency, I probably would not have been a president. And this is something that's important. Now let's bring it home locally now. You've got local organizations. You and I were honored by the Central Labor Council Civil Rights in 1992, I believe. Both of us received, among others, the Torch of Justice Award. You remember that, Mario?
Yes, I do.
Okay, fine. You also have a local educator. Her name is Lorene Simmons Robles, who has a calendar, and she recognizes individuals in the community.
I'm aware of it. She's did a great job with it. I'm aware of it, yes.
Yes, doing a good job. I was lucky to be one of those. I believe it was 2 years ago. I was lucky to be one of those that she had chosen. So what I'm saying is, it looks so embarrassing to be able to say, if I say Mario paved the way for me to be whatever I am, then all of a sudden I've never even recognized Mario for that. That's not good at all. Another thing too, is President Trump calling the First Lady Obama, Mrs. Obama, and President, we call him some funny name. I hate to even say the name. But he shouldn't be surprised of that, because at Jimmy Carter's funeral, a lot of you recall, it was live, you saw Trump and Obama knocking us out, touching each other up, slapping each other on the back and talking back and forth like in a bar, like in a funeral.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I saw that. I was very disturbed when I saw it. And I believe a photographer took pictures of it, and exposed it as well. So you shouldn't be surprised. Okay, Michelle was smart. She decided she's not going anywhere. And she's right. She's right not to have gone, because she probably didn't see that this man is not good, or be around the sea of people that's there. So what I'm saying, in essence, as blacks,
as we talk about blacks and 400 years of slavery and black history and all that back and forth stuff. What I'm saying is, you know, you're either in or you're out. You either respect each other as a race or stay divided. Simple. Okay, and it's right here in our community. Too much divisions all over the place. Too much divisions. People have met me and I'm retired now. Man, look, let me tell you, I'm working harder now that I'm retired, Mario. Now, when I was working.
Well, help me out a little bit, Chance. Help me out a little bit here. Because I'm just catching up with all of this. Yes, I know that we lost Jesse Jackson yesterday. But the connection between Jesse Jackson and Barack Obama, how's that? I mean, was it in the 1980s that Jesse Jackson was running for president?
I don't want to say, I believe so. Somewhere along
There
the
was
line.
when Reagan, I recall it when Reagan was president, you know, and yes, so that.
But the connection was there because all of them were Democrats anyway. And you know, what I'm saying is, if you, well, when you want as president, if you're going to stand before people and say, guess what? You know, if it wasn't for Jesse Jackson paving the way, he probably would have been president.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get a better understanding of, because I'm thinking that there's 20 years apart between when Jesse Jackson was running to when Barack Obama was running successfully. And so that's what I'm to say. Well, did they explain how it is that, you know, Jesse Jackson was contributed to Barack Obama's success? So, I mean, how was that explained?
Well, according to Obama, he basically explained that the ties that he had with him and how he paved the way. He did not go in detail per se.
But this is what I mean. It's 20 years apart.
I understand that. So, you know, I understand exactly, unless they're 20 years apart, unless he just came out just to come out just to be able to say something about Jesse Jackson. But what he should not, and then he's using the sentence that it's because he paved the way for him to be president. So he didn't elaborate too much on that.
Wow.
So like you said, it's 20 years apart and what have you. What I'm saying is, even though he felt that way about Jesse Jackson, whether he paved the way or not paved the way for him to be president, you know about this, a lot of the work that he's been doing with the Rainbow Coalition, and you should have at least honored him with a Medal of Honor. He honored a whole bunch of other people, entertainers, singers, all kind of people, okay, and not Jesse Jackson. So that was my point. And I also wrote an editorial on Facebook because I'm a member of the National Association of Black Journalists in Washington, D.C. I'm a very proud member of that organization.
Okay.
And I wrote an editorial on Facebook so my colleagues will be able to understand how I feel concerning the matter. All I'm doing is reacting to the statement that was made. This is no allegation. This is direct statement, not no fake news.
Yeah.
Because you know, as broadcasters, you know, we have to be very careful when things are reported. We do investigatory work. We go in depth. We do a lot of other things. But anyway, thank you very, very much, because I know you probably have a lot of calls coming in and what have you.
Well, you brought me up to date. I certainly was not aware of this. Yes, I knew of Jesse Jackson's passing, but this connection between him supposedly paving the way for Barack Obama's success, that's all news to me.
And they even showed a clip. They showed a clip when Obama's family was on stage at the gathering there. They even showed a clip where Jesse Jackson actually shed tears in the audience.
Wow.
They showed that as well. Yes, he shed tears in the audience. Whatever. You know, I met Jesse Jackson one time here in St. Croix. That's when he came down. I was public relations officer at the time for the Bergen Police Department. Okay, and I met him one time when he came down there. A strapped in tall guy, and we spoke briefly. and see what the lieutenant governor's office.
Yeah,
And I met him one time and
Good
whatever.
for you.
That's about it.
good for you.
That's right. So again, Mario, thank you very much for all the enlightenment. I
Yeah.
heard you earlier dialoguing about different things, humanity and this and that.
Yeah.
It's like a cat chasing the tail. I mean, the meaning is the same. Okay.
We're trying.
Anyway,
Thank you so much, man. Thank you for updating us.
hey, like Jesse Jackson says, and it's honor, I'm going to repeat this: keep hope alive.
We gotta keep hope alive. That's right.
Keep it alive.
Thank you much. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right.
Thank you. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Well, how about that, beloved? Jesse Jackson paving the way for Barack Obama become president, and as I recall it, Jesse Jackson was, and as I said, it was in the 1980s because he was running when George Bush, the first, was running, because Bush, yes, that's right, he was Reagan's vice president, and he ran, and successfully. He ran, or did he? Because that's when Clinton came. Oh, anyhow, I'm confusing myself anyhow. But it's this matter of Jesse Jackson paving the way for Barack Obama is what set me off on that. It was confused my head anyway. But beloved, the issue that we were trying to bring forward here this afternoon is the fact that our education system is not up to the task, and we are not being made aware of the two kinds of knowledge that exist: science and humanities, to the point that, beloved, we continue to think that as United States citizens, it is our duty to be, well, not only loyal citizens, but proud citizens of the United States of America. And that, beloved, is where we have the issue, because we could go to school, no matter which school we attend here in the Virgin Islands, we're not going to learn how is it that we became a second-class citizen, because that's just it. We are a citizen. We are citizens of the United States, but we have no voting rights as citizens, so that beloved, we are at best second-class citizens that makes us, well, comfortable with our inferiority, because I don't know how else to look at it, but our status as United States citizens, don't care how you look at it, it's still gonna come out being a status of inferiority. We spent a lot of decades from World War II up until the 80s. So that was like 40, 50 years of telling other descendants of Africa, calling them aliens because they were not American citizens. And the US immigration system called them undocumented aliens. And needless to say, beloved, we, in our inferior status, grabbed on to that opportunity to have someone below us. And so while we were inferior United States citizens, we could still talk down to and abuse the alien who was not a US citizen. And that went on, beloved, until the 1980s when the undocumented aliens were finally given the opportunity to become US citizens. And so we're now all in the same inferiority basket in this unincorporated territory of the Virgin Islands. And beloved, it's really difficult to find the words to describe this situation, but this is what our humanities amount to. Here we are in the year 2026. And beloved, we have no idea what is meant by African humanities. What's that? What Mrs. Mario keep talking about is African humanities. Well, that's the point. Is that right now, beloved, the humanities that we are embracing, the humanities that we are living with, is to be proud that we are citizens of the United States of America, even though it is at best a second-class citizenship, and therefore an inferior posture that we find our humanities in. But we're comfortable. We're pleased. We're happy. So happy that we have now tried 5 times and working on our 6th attempt to draft a constitution for for this unincorporated territory of the Virgin Islands. What a strong word, beloved. And we're comfortable with that. That's the issue. We are comfortable with that. So I don't know, but we're at the top of the hour, so beloved, let us take what will be our final break of this afternoon here. I'm stepping in for my one and only sister as she deals with education. She's a career educator. I am not. I just run in my mouth. So, beloved, hold train. We will be right back. So I can run my mouth a little more. We're back, beloved, and yes, this is the last lap, and we gotta call a hold him, so let's do the last lick and the last lap. Good afternoon. Hello, good afternoon. I hear you, but do you hear me?
Yes, good afternoon again.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back.
You're saying the African humanity, but that's a varied amount of different ethnicity and culture, So humanity, if you want to use the term.
I do. I'm aware of that, yeah.
Yeah, I can make a mention that Ethiopia was all the countries, Ethiopia was in existence, and that is years ago.
Well, for one thing, for one thing, so we can get that little thing clear and out of the way. Ethiopia is a Greek name, that was used. And since it wasn't before the 5th century that Greece, through Herodotus, was able to make an impact in Egypt, I says, hey, Ethiopia could not have been known. It would have been Abyssinia. Matter of fact, choose a name, but it would have been Ethiopia.
The trigger pattern is all these were talking about the gentleman function with pyramids.
Yeah.
And that same point we're making reference to now,
Yeah.
there is, to my knowledge, in Egyptian find that I have a two-volume dictionary, an exhaustive one about it. And using the best language of Egyptian in my opinion, but you can't find an Egyptian, even the very word Pharaoh, you cannot find that you're finding it in different books. Actually, you can't find that in Egypt like that. You will have to use two constructs of PER and along the different farm to derive Pharaoh. And if my understanding, BEN, Ben, like that triangle, that the pyramidal part of the pyramid, the triangular type, that is a BEN. And I don't think you will look until from A to Z or what have you, and you will find no word for. You will find a KHUTI and different names for the pyramid and light and so forth like that, but you won't find no word marking pyramid. So in terms of being it's being a Greek word, it's Kush. KHEPSA. I would allow the scholarship, in my opinion, one of the more fundamental scholar, he derived the word Kush from that Egyptian word, and Egypt itself had a word. The Egypt below the first cataract, as one was the first cataract in the Elephantine region, there was a Seba or a Kush or a Mero or whatever you want to call them the name, and that was Ethiopia. And Ethiopia was on both sides of the Red Sea. You had Ethiopia on the African continent, and you had one in Arabia. And me talking about the Christian Ethiopian, I got him with Abdom. I got before that, because the Egyptian make mention of trading with punt, P-U-N-T or P-H-U-T, foot or punt, and that was scholars would derive that to be belonging to one of the sons of Kush, and hence Ethiopian. So the Egyptian record and literature speak of a trading and a commercial partner that used to do business with, not even that even had commercials with them. So as you said that when Cambodian Ashurbanipal came in the 5th and the 7th century, is when they had the dispersion of the Africans from the Nile Valley, and they developed the different cultures and whether Mali, Shanghai, etc. And that is debatable. I will put a question mark for that, but you know. So I know.
Well, all I was saying is that all I was saying is the name itself, is Greek. That's all. I'm not saying that, that what is Mero is Kush. I've been saying whatever you call. Hey, I'm just saying that the name Ethiopia.
I wouldn't be surprised just about the word Egypt could be traced to Greek. I wouldn't be surprised, right?
Yeah.
That the word Ethiopia, the root of it, Ethiopia meaning like black or black face or born face.
Yeah.
Doesn't have a synonym within just like Egypt. The word Egypt, even though it's Greek, it could be traced to K-H-E-P-T, K-H-E-B-T, K-H-E-F-T. All of them people derive the word.
But again, I think you're missing my point. I think you're going too deep, and I acknowledge, like I said, I keep saying it, your intellectual ability. I've just pointed out that, Greece did not get to the level of civilization, until really the first millennia.
So what about Pythagoras, Thales, and them all the philosophers who went into Egypt to obtain knowledge and so forth?
Yeah, well, that's like I said, Herodotus was in the 5th century, but all of this is within the first 1,000 years, before this current era, and I was the 1000 BCE then.
Okay. Okay. Well, okay, I hear you, but okay. Okay. Well, I don't hang up on you listening to the last part of the show. Thank you.
Thank you, man. Thank you. And I always thank you for your contribution. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Nothing there. Well, beloved, we got about a little more than 15 minutes left of the time, and again, feel free, because I'm basically just summing up what points I've been trying to make this afternoon here, which is that, beloved, according to our understanding of knowledge, our humanity was crushed with Ashurbanipal in the 7th century. And that's what we're trying to point out, that after that, I think we got a call. Let me see. Good afternoon.
Hey.
Welcome. Hello.
Hello?
Welcome.
Yeah, Mario?
Yes, this is me.
Oh, okay. Well, first time caller. Good afternoon to you and your listeners. I'm Brethren from the Eastern Caribbean. I'm a resident here in the Virgin Islands from 1979.
Please feel welcome and feel welcome. We are one family here.
My family have been blessed to be residents of the Virgin Islands.
Well, there are them and those who would put divisions between us, and we had nothing to do with the European dividing us up into all these things. Use American, use British, use Dutch, use French, use this. We are all descendants of Africa, and we are all family. So welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Kind of remind me in the song African Peter Tosh, because you know what separation does. You know, the poetic verse as a farmer musical icon.
Yes.
Right? It is amazing, like the ancestors who passed it on to us. He said, don't mind the nationality.
Yes, sir.
You have got the identity. You know that song? So
yes, I am, of course. Yes, sir. Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah. Oh, okay. There's a lot going on. So, I was informed foremost, Mr. Mario, I've never met you. Miss Mohan, your sister, Mary. I listen to her all the time. She calls in on shows here back in St. Thomas.
Okay.
And I think she's a very educated person, being a person.
Yes, she's a career educator. She's retired now.
Yes.
And she's a member of the Board of Education.
Yes, quite a concerned person. She calls in on shows on St. Thomas. And, you know, of course, the Virgin Islands been bought by the United States. And as one people, a struggle continues. Because what strikes me is when the Virgin Islands was shipped from Danish rule back in 1917. I must remind your audience that it took 10 years, the insult of 10 years, which I have my respect to the United States, before they got citizenship.
Correct. And
that period of time up to now, we ain't even get the full right to have a say in the electoral arena, so
right.
Specifically to vote to say, well, a vote counts.
Right. So what do you want to call it? How do
you feel about that?
Well, as I was saying, We can choose call it second class citizenship or inferior citizenship. But for sure, it is not the same as the US citizenship that the average American in the States has. We don't
And
have
you know what? Sorry to have
no please go ahead.
my
Go ahead.
apologies.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, Mr. Mario, listeners, you remind me that we got our work cut out, as Frederick Douglass said, where there is no struggle, there is no progress, because with this sixth constitution coming up with your sister is quite instrumental, a listener quite often, and she is a contributor to a better Virgin Islands, and she is one who keeps saying in relative to what Burt Bryan was doing. You notice when former Senator Burt Bryan was a member of the Fifth Constitution, and he kind of cut out or kind of tried to pave the way for Native Virgin Islanders to have a special privilege. They tried to former governor of the Virgin Islands, that was then DeYoung, held up the documents, and when they sent it to Washington, they took the privilege. I don't know if he called them and tell them don't approve it. Excuse me, I know my neck on the line, but we are human beings and it must be told. They knocked it down and said, oh, you have to, they scrap it and say you have to give equal rights to Eastern Caribbean and others who migrate here to the Virgin Islands, and that cannot be tolerated. And I did a small research, right? I'm not a big computer person, but I find it unfair because the Indians, the Native Americans, before Washington them fought against Britain and won their independence. Today, especially if they got all the casinos, they have special privilege. I think that was kind of unfair. And time will tell. We have the sixth constitution coming up, and I hope those who are members of it are smart enough to not just scrap out that, but remind the big brothers that that is a fact that the Indians are still called Native Americans. That you use the term there, which relates to identity and the Native American, because when you go to Full House Farm and the part which says what's your identity, African American, the Indians still get a privilege.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to say, right, I will tell we have a work cut up. Mr. Mario, I want to commend you for the years of your service. I used to live in St. Croix many years ago when I first came here.
Oh, how about that?
Today, tomorrow is not the late to rest. God bless the Virgin Islands, specifically St. Croix. I'm at St. Croix right now, staying out with family because my mother, who lived here in St. Croix, used to live in Kennedy, right next to Elena Christian Junior High School, where I have a little bit, I'm from St. Kitts, a little bit of my learning.
Okay.
To night school.
Yeah.
I used to walk there from up past Golden Cow. I lived down there by, she had a house there by the Comanche. Remember that supermarket they used to have in Richmond?
Yes, I think they call it Superfoods.
Okay, back then, yeah, the Comanche them had that there, and I used to live in King Street, just above Waterbuck there, and I enjoy living here in the Virgin Islands. I've been in St. Kitts since many long years, but I've been blessed here, and I want to thank the people of the Virgin Islands, including you, because my mother is going to be laid to rest on St. Croix after living here.
Really? My
for
condolences.
Thank you. She made it to 101, so thank you.
Well, how about that? How about that?
Very pretty. I've been over here in a long time, but I'm going to be here till I'm going back over to St. Thomas on Friday, God willing.
Yes.
Mr. Moyle, I know the time is short. You made a point, right, for a point I want to elaborate on. But before I go forward with that, that's for the last time. It's very important also to remind your listeners that you're the one who is instrumental. Nobody gave you that credit, give you flowers while you're living. I think you need to be recognized and applauded for what you're talking about, humanity. We have the humanity division to the University of the Virgin Islands. I'm also a local poet and a small writer. I don't have two computers, but I write for years. And I've been knocked down like you and others, the ancestors, but I still keep fighting our way through the people.
That's good. That's good.
How much people recognize you for being the one now, along with former Senator Burt Bryan, God bless him, and former Senator from St. John's, Cleon Quickie, who implemented, if I have to specify, the legislation to theology and history, which your sister talk about quite frequently, is placed in the schools of the Virgin Islands, along with you see where they've been dumping us and they've been giving us a 649.
Yeah.
40 years gone. And the people been insulted by Farmer Judge Andrews, which had this audacity according to old people to say, oh, this guy don't have enough history.
Yeah.
So you see, it answers this is a piece of the puzzle there. Humanity, there we go. And I hope you have a pleasant afternoon before I wrap up. You were the one who challenged and your sister and others to put this case in the court. And you couldn't imagine so many legislation is passed. So many legislation came 40 years, and this case has been instrumental. Nobody so serious about preserving our ancestors' history to have the children learn. And that's what you're saying this afternoon. So I hope I answer your question, and the people say you've been a fighter. Usually people wait until they're dead gone. Oh, Mario might have had to wait for he's a very educated person. When you don't gone now, they give you flowers. So this afternoon, I want to give you props that you deserve from my
Well, we thank you. We thank you.
On behalf of my mother, who gave us a green card. And the other part of it, one day I might meet you in person. I'm still on St. Croix. The other part of it, right, I want to answer your question again and share with the people what you're trying to tell them. The callers were very great, and I think you have a great show. Once in a while, I listen to your show, and there's so much there. The other part now about the pyramid, I want to remind your listeners, because what you're touching on is a very serious point. The pyramid in Gaza, which is over 6,000 years BC, is one of the great wonders of the world. And up to today, stunned architects, scientists, and even though those enslaved Egyptians used to build some of them for the pharaoh, you notice on the dollar bill, and I want to pause. We're looking for it and we're talking about it, but how come the Freemasons of the United States, Washington, them who fought Britain, speaking of what Brian was trying to get privilege for the natives, they put it on the dollar bill. So this is the answer. So do me a favor this afternoon and smile and thank God for what He's made you, a wise man who loves His people. They're flashing it right in front of our face there. You know this? It's on the US dollar bill.
Yes, I know. Yes,
There goes for that. And you see how God moving in mysterious ways, a stranger. So the Lord is still among us, our ancestors. And I want to also specify this. Throughout history, we've been given a Trinitarian doctrine. I talk about lay my mother to rest. Our mother at some time come into the world, no species, no offspring. A rooster can't have a chicken without the hen. So how come we have a Trinitarian doctrine on our throat, Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, and the woman being kicked out? It reminds me of when Jesus was called and asked what you think about what the elders with these stones in their hands of stone Mary Magdalene had, and she was caught in the act of adultery, and he took according, to the law of Moses, she should be stoned to death. This is now where another form of oppression took place when he told them, let him without sin cast the first stone. So we've been fought for a long time, and life, I want to wrap up by saying, where there is no struggle, I give Frederick Douglass credit. And I would say officially, my name is Cornelius Douglas, and I'm part of the human race. And losing a mother who was dear to me, she taught me a lot of things. And one of the things she taught me is that life is a battle. So God bless you. The battle is on. I think you did well and doing well. And I would love to meet you in person to give you physical honor of a handshake and say, you're a fighter for the people. I used to live here back in the days, you know. I know a couple of rats. I used to live in King Street there by Rascott. He had a brother named Silas, right? I'm a Rastafarian. So I'm a member of the human race. So God bless you and the people of the Virgin Islands and our ancestors. By the way, I nearly forget the pyramid have the iron on the dollar bill. It's a symbol of the great king Rahorus, who his wife was Isis, and they had a baby, right?
Horus.
Yes. So in Haiti, they have the Madonna, and this is the great singer in America, Madonna. She has the song by Like a Virgin.
Yes.
It's a symbol which reminds us of when Joseph, Jesus was to be born. We're celebrating Christianity. Joseph, they say, was traveling with Mary. They had a baby, so they've been trying to hide the truth for a long time. Mother Nature still rules over the universe. They used to be great. God bless Desiree. She had that song, Queen Omega, where she talked about the great African queens.
Yes.
And of course, Budweiser, now it's Black History Month. Back back in St. Thomas, you used to see the Daily News when Ariel Melco and of course the founder Antonio Jarvis, they still had it. You see when you don't have the pressing control, what people could do. Every day in that February, we used to get highlights of the greatness of the Africans. But let me conclude by saying there's a saying in the scriptures: the good kings of the false leaders of the earth and the kings of the earth gather themselves together against the Lord and his anointed, saying, let us cut their cords asunder and let us cast them from among us, that they won't be remembered no more as a people. He that seated in the heavens shall laugh. The Lord shall have them in derision. He shall dash them in pieces like a potter's vessel and destroy them in his sword displeasure. And you know, Haile Selassie, when he made that speech, he said, until that philosophy, the whole one race superior and another inferior is finally is finally and permanently discredited and abandoned, they'll always do war. And he's the one who has helped establish the League of Nations to protect other nations. Mario, God bless you and the people of the Virgin Islands. Have a great day, brother.
I'm thanking you for your contribution. Certainly appreciate it.
God bless you and thank you for the time.
Thank you so much for your call.
You're welcome. And this place is so beautiful. I've been over here for a long time. I'm enjoying it. The people are so friendly and the place is so beautiful. And with agriculture just under the dawn there.
Yes.
All these years, I think the next government come in, they should take agriculture more serious because the world is about to go through a serious crisis with food shortage. And we could have all the money in the world. We must have food and water. God bless us as Caribbean people, St. Christ, and the world. Thank you again for the time.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your call. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Beloved, the humanities belong to all of us. And every people have humanities. But our humanities should not be considered ours until we are a free people. Because what we're doing is imitating the humanities handed down to us by them and those who conquered us, enslaved us, and colonized us. And we are now hoping to be free, to have our own humanities by adopting those that we consider to be superior to us. Because unfortunately, this is where we're at. Beloved, we are United States citizens, citizens of the United States of America. But we don't know for sure what our political status is, because we live in what is defined as the unincorporated territory of the Virgin Islands of the United States. What is that? Well, it amounts to second-class citizen, inferior citizen. And we have been trained to accept this as an honor bestowed on us by those who conquered us, enslaved us and colonized us. We accept it as a great honor. Yes, a very honorable thing that those same conquerors would give us a citizenship that is, well, not quite citizenship, but somehow or the other, we are proud of it. And we use it as a blanket to secure us in our humanities. And that's where we stand, beloved. And as my last words, I will say once again that it don't matter how big a basket they give us, beloved. 1-1. We could fill up that basket just as long as we do it to get down.